Hey, everybody, it's Brendon Burchard, founder of GrowthDay, and I'm thrilled to be with you on this month's new topic, which is how do you learn faster? How do we actually get better at learning? And I can share with you one thing to start this. If you ask me what's the number one secret to the highest performing people that I've ever gotten to coach, work with, mentor, interview, guide, consult, it is they absolutely prioritized learning. Not like casual, like browsing learning, not like, oh, I'm kind of interested. They were in that mastery mindset of learning. They were master learners. This doesn't mean they always got great grades in grade school. I didn't. It didn't mean they were genius IQs, because some of you have diminished your entire potential and your future because you believe you are good or bad at learning. Some of you have gotten that place where you've been so hard on yourself. You let other people make fun of you about your intelligence, about your capability, about your results, that you have stopped the love of learning. And it shows up. You always hear me say this as a high performance coach. I use this metaphor all the time. If I parachuted into your life and I looked at the last 6 months of your life, could you show me diligent, incredible, consistent progress in something? Could you show me your learning journey as an example in the last 6 months? Or did we get in that place where we kind of just show up and go through the motions? Because all growth is tied to learning. I think we could all agree on that. And yet so few people prioritize it. We're going to have a fun session today. Bust out your journal, bust out your app to take some notes. Just get ready, because we're going to go in this in a, I would say, an uncommon way. I'm going to share some insights about maybe why you have learned the way you have learned, and help you kind of break through some mindset stuff that might have prevented you from gaining even more edge in your mastery in any given topic. Then we'll talk about some very simple practices and philosophies for you to advance your learning in any area. Some of you want to learn to be happier. Some of you want to learn to be wealthier. Some of you want to learn to be healthier. Some of you want to learn to advance a specific skill set in your hobby or your career. We all want to learn something different. But we're going to begin with this first thing I'm going to return to. You've got to prioritize learning. If I think about my life and actually how I've operated it, I would say an incredible uncommon edge I've had my entire career, my entire life, was the willingness to learn, the joy of learning, the challenge that I placed in my own learning so that I could get ahead faster. I had to do that because I wasn't super smart. So it was way more important. Some of you, you're just naturally smart. You're amazing. You're like, dude, learning's easy for me. I learned past everybody so fast. That wasn't me. I had to get really advanced skills at learning so that it would stick for me. And I had to teach myself to love the learning process so that I could advance my career. And some of you know how that turned out. I started in college, probably pretty early on. Actually, I'm going back, maybe 17, 18 years old. I heard that some of my peers had learned speed reading. And I thought, speed reading, what is that? And I could see I had one of my friends, he would just read a book so quickly. He'd read a book in a day or two. I thought, how is that possible? And of course, I didn't believe it. So I said, hey, can you remember anything? So I'd open up the book and I'd ask him some questions about the book he'd be reading, and he'd remember. And I was so blown away by that. And the funny thing is, for 4 or 5 years, I just thought he was a genius. I immediately assumed, I was like, wow, he can do that. I didn't realize he had learned how to do that. I didn't realize for 3, 4, 5 years later until I was talking with him. I remember that one time we were speed reading. How'd you do that? And then he sat down and he showed me, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's something I mean, imagine if you could read a book 7 times faster. Well, you can. You just have to learn how to do that. Think about if you could learn how to be an amazing communicator on a stage or on a video 7 times faster. Well, you can. Imagine if you learned to code 7 times faster than the next person. Imagine if you learned any practice or skill set. You know, you walk into the yoga studio on your first day with your friend, you're both taking yoga at the same time, but in 3 months, you're incredible at it. And they're still falling over at downward dog. You know, like, what's happening, people? Skills of learning, the practices of learning. There's nothing in your life that you want, that you can't have if you develop a greater learning process. And I've seen this over and over and over again. My entire career, people said, Brendon, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at video. I'm not good at, writing. I'm not good at persuasion. I'm not good at leading. I'm not good at building companies. I'm not good at finances. And I always thought, that's so sad that people actually think that. And of course, being part of personal development, you all know, and probably have already studied some of the master works of psychology and learning. Maybe you've learned from Carol Dweck, the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. We talk a lot about that here in GrowthDay. That idea that some of you just view yourself and your capabilities as fixed, as like in a box. And some of you know how expansive it is, that your brain, your mindset, your ability to develop skills is so unbelievably expansive. It's incredible. It's hard to even imagine how far you can come in your learning. And especially when you realize how far you can come in learning with yourself or with others, right? As groups. I know Elon Musk is always in the headlines lately, and I often remind people, whatever you think of the person, or I would say the portrayal of the person in the media, here's a person who didn't know anything about building a rocket. And think about this. And within a 7-year period of time, was launching rockets for NASA. Billion-dollar contracts. He had never built a rocket before. To within the decade, billion-dollar contracts. He never built a rocket. Suddenly, building rockets. What we can learn together and learn from others and team build around our learning is also unbelievable. I had never launched a software company. Most of you are watching in the app right now. That's unbelievable. I didn't know how to do those things. I knew enough about coding and product development from my experiences at Kajabi, but I didn't know how to do all this. But other people know, and other people can advance you. So if you're one of those people who beat yourself up so much from your own personal learning journey, I'm here to tell you there's incredible hope. For those of you who don't think you're smart, there's incredible hope. For those of you who are thinking I sucked at learning in college, I'm you're an adult now, stop it. There is nothing you should think about yourself that came from your grade school or high school experiences as an adult. I always have to tell people, if you're still stuck there, that's therapy. Okay. We're not doing therapy today, but a lot of people need it because they're stuck in this old concept of themselves. When the ability for you to renew every single living part of you today, every atom, every molecule, every hormone didn't even exist 2 years ago. Your whole body has regenerated itself. As you've regenerated yourself, you can also regenerate your future. So don't be that person who's downtrodden on your intelligence or your capability, or you think you're, fixed in any way. Mindset, personality, habit, practice, capability. Because as I mentioned, the most extraordinary people I've ever met, not only did they prioritize their learning, it was just built into their day, built into their life, but they had an extreme level of confidence, compared to underperformers. And that came from their ability and their belief in their ability to figure things out. You've heard me teach this a million times, right? Confidence is just our belief in our ability to figure things out. It's like, oh, I'm confident because I can figure this out. You know, it's not just confidence in self. We'll talk about that later today. But it's confidence in what psychologists would call more like self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is my belief that I can figure this thing out, master this task, or do this task, right? I'm efficacious. I can do this thing. I believe I can do this thing. And that's what gives you so much confidence in the future. Because I taught myself how to learn, I realized I could do anything. I'll give you an example. When I wrote my first book, like my first big book, I should say, my first like paid big book called Life's Golden Ticket. I had never really launched a big book before. And I was, nervous about it. I had quit my job. I had started writing and coaching. And I didn't know how to do those things really well. And I wrote the book and I was terrified because my self-esteem, my identity, my future career was all built on this book going well. Well, I launched the book and it did great because I'd learned from others what that model of launching a book looked like. I didn't try to make it up as I went along, but still it didn't do what I wanted it to do at the level I wanted to do. So what did I do? I said, well, I guess I have to level up my learning. I need to learn to make a blockbuster book launch. What's the edge? What's the difference? What's the distinction of someone who promotes a book and sells tens of thousands of copies or sells hundreds of thousands or millions? Oh, okay. That's a different level of learning, isn't it? So every goal you have in your life, there's one level of learning to achieve it, and then there's other levels. And your job is to learn the advanced levels to achieve anything that you want in your life. This requires a mastery mindset, but it comes from the willingness to prioritize learning. So let me loop back to something I asked earlier. If I parachuted into your house and I actually looked at your calendar, can I tell the skill sets that you're trying to develop? I mean, is it in the calendar? Not like, oh yeah, I've been kind of listening to this podcast, Brendon. I kind of watched some YouTubes that I kind of randomly searched one day for 15 minutes. Oh, I bought those books on my Kindle. Haven't read them yet, but they're there just in case I decide to really learn one day. I'm busting you. We all do it. I'm busting on you. We all do it. But that is the difference between success and advancement versus like casual hopes to learn. What I mean is high performers take a diligent and a disciplined approach to learning. And when I say that they learn, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times faster, I'm not kidding. But it's not because their IQ is 1.5 or 2 times faster. It's because their disciplined practices are more consistent, more strategic, right? Some people, the difference is they're strategic and they're consistent and they get a model and they follow it and they get feedback. And in that discipline, it looks like they advance so far. We're having all these amazing conversations with GrowthDay with different partners and potential investors and people who just want to be part of our teams. And everybody to a T is like, how did you all do that in a year and whatever, a couple months? How did you go that fast as a startup? It was like, oh, well, a big piece about it was we weren't necessarily reinventing the wheel. A lot of our team members, we've run these playbooks before. We've done this before. And we have a learning mindset together. So we give each other grace and patience. We develop a rhythm of consistency to create. We follow a roadmap that we're trying to build into. All of these things are obvious, but when you realize that learning is either operationalized in your life and your company or not, now you can understand the pace of your progress in life, right? Your pace of your progress in your life is directly tied to your prioritization and discipline of learning, period. Your pace of your progress in your life is directly tied to your prioritization and consistency in learning. That's it. That's it. I can look at anyone's life and explain their life through an entire lens of learning. In fact, we're going to do that together today. You can say, no, Brendon, you don't understand. People's life are this way because their parents were that way. No. Their parents set up a context and you learned from it and developed your conscious and unconscious behaviors based on a reaction, a learning process with the parents. Ditto for your first career. Ditto for your first job. Ditto for your first relationship. Your level of love in life with your partner, your spouse, your kids, that is a model of learning first. That's it. You learned how to love. Somebody taught you that. Maybe you didn't understand a learning process was happening. This is what we failed to do in our schools that are supposed to teach learning. We failed to teach kids that, oh, hey, did you know you've been learning how to become who you are? You know, we teach them what year the Statue of Liberty or the pyramids are built. We teach them who invented this or who invented that, or who was the governor or the president or the ruler of a country in what decade or what era. But we don't actually teach them that they've been learning to become who they are. Did you realize that you're learning to become who you are based on the other kids in class? Because you're getting feedback about who you are and you're making assumptions. You're getting all this input, right? The world is just a big input field. The world is a big input field. We are the ones through a learning process who take that input field, we interpret it, right? Our interpretations are a learning process. Oh, this is happening. I'm learning that there's a pattern here, right? I'm learning when I come to school, these kids bully me. They don't like me. Pattern. People around me, unsafe. Pattern. People around me don't like me. Pattern. I need to protect myself to avoid these people who judge and hurt and blame and bully me. I have to protect myself. Now I have learned to be hyper vigilant in protecting myself. That was all a learning process, wasn't it? And as you know, learning can sometimes be accurate or inaccurate. Learning comes a lot with self-identification and labeling. Oh, well, because, many of you, how many of you were bullied at some point in school? Yeah, a ton of people here, right? A ton of people. Well, some people got bullied and they had the same pattern recognition happening and they went on to be just fine. Other people, they shut down their relationships for decades because of that. What's the difference? It was the same input field, wasn't it? But the interpretation of that pattern developed a learning mechanism, often called a coping mechanism, that was probably not healthy for what they wanted in their future. But maybe they weren't conscious of it. And so the reason I discuss this, and I hit you with all these different contexts, right? You've heard I'm hitting contexts of how you love and how you become, and hitting context with successful people and the process, because I want your head in this game right now. I want to be accessing different parts of your brain to get you thinking about how profound this topic is. Once you realize how profound learning is, you start seeing life through that lens. And that becomes when life gets fun, in my opinion. How do you turn the feeling of defeat into a success mindset? Those days you get disappointed, you get sad, you get upset, someone makes fun of you, and all of a sudden all of your motivation and your focus and your drive drains out with the disappointment. How do you turn it around? You know, if you went for that big project and you failed, it didn't work out. You put the video out, nobody watched it. You know, you did what you've been trying to do, but you just didn't get the accolades or the rewards, and now you feel defeated, and like tomorrow you're kind of like, screw it, why even try? We've got to learn how to change that mindset around so we can have some more resiliency and motivation so that we can keep at it in our dreams. But the question is, how? That's what this episode is about. The first thing you have to remember, as soon as defeat strikes, and it will, if you're chasing big missions, big purposes, things that really matter to you, you're gonna have down days, you're gonna have bad days. Allow that. Everybody wants to be so Pollyannish or super positive and say, oh, there is no defeat, there is no failure. Oh no, there's failure. I mean, there really is. And we should stop pretending that people don't fall on their face and feel bad and have bad days. Allow it. When you have a bad day, allow that moment to say, you know what? Yeah, this isn't the way I wanted it to go. And then immediately shift into learning. Disappointment immediately goes away as soon as you shift into learning. So your question is, first allow it, say, okay, I am disappointed. I have higher standards. I wanted it to go better. But instead of now keep focusing on those things where you beat yourself up and beat yourself up, you say to yourself, okay, what's 3 things I learned? Go. And start focusing on what you learned. Specifically, when you get defeated in your life, I want you to start analyzing what defeated you, but instead of saying, I did bad here and bad here and bad here, turn it into a question about, first, what did I learn about myself? Second, what did I learn about other people? Third, what did I learn about the world? Fourth, what can I do about it? That's how you deal with the disappointments. What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about other people? What did I learn about the world? And what can I do now? That focus to those 4 questions from any disappointment or defeat will help charge you up because you'll be focused more on the lessons and what you can do next. The second big idea when you have a defeat is this. Immediately that day that you got defeated, I want you to take 3 action steps, no matter what those are. Sometimes the 3 action steps are, okay, that didn't work out well, send an email to my team explaining or apologizing. Sometimes the action step is to call somebody, send a note to somebody, send a text. Sometimes the action step can simply be stop at the grocery store, get my favorite meal, so tonight I feel better about myself. Whatever it is, just make sure as soon as the disappointment happens, you set 3 goals that very day and do them. One of those goals can be meditate and think about it. Another goal can be take a long walk. Another goal can be let's exercise. Another goal can be call a friend, go out to coffee. I don't care what it is, my friend, but you need those goals and you need to do them immediate. Because here's the thing, the more momentum you have, it doesn't matter toward what goal. The more momentum you have, the more motivation you'll feel. And that motivation can often wipe out that feeling of disappointment and move you forward. And then the third big idea, when you get defeated, stop focusing so much on yourself. I know it's easy to stew in your own hurt or your anger, your disappointment, but instead start thinking about that very next day, how can I rise to another level of service? That's the question I want you to ask the next day. When you wake up that next day after disappointment, say, you know what? Today, I have the opportunity to serve. Let me do it with full joy and heart. Let me challenge myself this day. Yes, yesterday wasn't what I wanted to be, but this day, I'm going to challenge myself again to serve with full joy and full heart. If you can do these simple things, I know they're just internal dialogues I'm talking about. You're really just looking at the disappointment or the defeat and saying, okay, what did I learn about myself, other people, and the world, and what can I do? You're really just saying, okay, what are 3 steps I can take today to get some more momentum back? And you're really just waking up the next day and saying, hey, how can I serve even better today? That might sound so simplistic, but most people don't do those things. They keep stewing over and over and over on the hurt and the angst and the stress, and so they never break free. If you can ask a different quality of question, you can live a different quality of life and overcome those disappointments. So try that next time you feel down or defeated, and you'll start to experience and live what we call the charged life. People always ask me, Brendon, what do leaders actually do? Maybe you're leading a team, or you're in charge of a large organization, or you're just trying to even lead your own life. I mean, what is it that leaders actually do? Many of you know this was my graduate school work. In 2001, I wrote a book called The Student Leadership Guide, and I never had any clue that thing would blow up the way that it has. And this framework for leadership, it's called E6, is from that book, and it's been used at, I think, 40 of the top 100 schools in the world. Major corporations from around the world, major associations have called me in to speak on this topic because it's a great framework for leadership. It answers that question. What are the major practices of leadership that we must enact on a continual basis to be able to have the amount of influence and impact we desire in our work lives or in any role in which we're leading other people? So let's get right into it. The first E of these 6 E's is envision. Great leaders envision a compelling and different and vibrant future than what is here. They have an alternative, clear view of what the world could be like tomorrow than it is today, right? They have a shared purpose. They believe that they and others would be compelled by, interested in, inspired by, and want to work towards. And that's a big deal. And you always read about it in leadership, right? You have to have vision. I mean, it's biblical. Where there is no vision, people perish, right? We know the power of having that vision. So you have to sit down, though, and actually do it. The reason we say envision versus just have a vision is you have to sit. It's a practice of envisioning. What should tomorrow look like for my team? What should tomorrow be like for my business, for my organization? What should tomorrow be like for my life? And not just tomorrow, a long-term mindset and view. The dream, right? That magnificent obsession, that bold desire, the moonshot goals and purposes and missions of life, the bigger picture. That's envisioning a different reality in the future than we experience today. And that's what everybody gets excited about in leadership. Where there's no vision, there's no leadership. Where there's no vision, people perish. So you have to envision. And I say that these are 6 practices of leadership and not 6 steps, because it's not like you do envisioning once and then you move on in the process. We always have to continually sit down and envision, where are we? Where can we be going? It's an active process. If you set a vision one time and you forget about it, it's not gonna help you accomplish the influence or the impact you want in your lifetime or in those that you lead. The second E here is enlist. As you're developing this vision, it's not just your vision, you're enlisting other people to share their voices, their perspectives, their dreams, their desires for where you could be going. I think that the most important leadership lesson in the world is that people support what they create. If people are involved in the ideation of a vision, they're involved in creating ideas, of brainstorming, of figuring out what is it we are about, what do we stand for, where are we going. Great leaders enlist that from other people. They're constantly asking people what they think, how they feel, what things they desire and need. And it's that enlistment that is always going on. A great leader is always enlisting other people to believe in the dream, to shape the dream, to stay dedicated to the dream. It's an honest and an authentic and a genuine desire to see other people be involved in the process and to enjoy that process. I mean, it's so vital. And that methodology of how do you get people involved in that? You're asking questions. You're paying attention to their needs. You're reflecting back to things that you're hearing. You're always enlisting others to support and to build this vision, this ideal future together. And the third thing that great leaders are always doing is embodying their message. They stand for something. There's a congruence between who they are, the behaviors that they're enacting into the world, how they treat people, what they're working towards, and what they say is important, right? It's just basic line. It's integrity. It's a congruence between what we say we're after and how we are behaving. And there's nothing more important, is there? It's that old message. It's like, you don't believe the message unless you believe the messenger. So as leaders, we have to stand for and demonstrate and show and portray what we are really believing in. I mean, is our team and the people around us seeing us work for it, sweat for it, sacrifice for it, champion it over and over and over again, even when it's hard, even when there's conflict, even when people are pissed, even when people want to quit? Are you still there Do you still stand for it? If you do, you become a legend. Fourth, what we have to move on to is now empowering people. Empowerment means we give people the decision-making authority and the trust to be able to work towards this vision, to allow them the autonomy, the strength, the input, to equip them with the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, the technologies, the tools, the training, to allow them to succeed as they march with us to achieving something extraordinary and phenomenal. That's vital. That's what empowerment is about. And a lot of leaders who come in with a big vision, they get everyone excited, they seem like they want everybody involved, and they do a great job of standing for it, but they don't equip their teams to kick some butt. They never get to that place of real stride, of real momentum. And that happens all the time. Training other people and equipping them with everything they need to succeed has to be a vital practice of every great leader. And again, it doesn't happen just once. That's a huge failure in the working world, especially in corporate America. Great leaders come in, they nail the vision, they get people around it, they stand for something. But they only empower people at the beginning. They give some training and then they just disappear. Training has to be consistent, coaching has to be consistent, equipping people to deal with the new challenges, the new tools, the new technologies, the new competitive realities. That's vital. We have to have that in place, right? So we've been doing this practice. We envision a better future. We enlist other people to help shape that vision, to believe in that vision, to support that vision. We stand for something by embodying our own message. We empower other people to be able to support and to be able to win. Then we have to evaluate. So the hardest things that we do in all of leadership, to evaluate the key people who are with us, their contributions, evaluate their skills, evaluate their needs, and to evaluate the ethics that are going on in our organization, in our team. Are we being excellent and are we being ethical? Is the questions that we're evaluating on, right? Are we being excellent and ethical as we are progressing? Which I guess would be the third question. Are we progressing? If not, why? Are we being ethical? If not, why? If our people are not being excellent, if not, why? These are the questions that we have to ask as this practice. And evaluation, it's like every day as a leader. You've got to keep your thumb on the pulse to see, hey, how are we doing? Are we alive? Are we moving forward? That evaluation also brings up the incredible challenge that we face as leaders, which is to give honest, direct, immediate, constructive feedback to those people who we're trying to influence and lead. To our collaborators, to our friends, to our followers, whatever word that you use for them. I mean, it's vital. It's vital that we are paying attention and seeing when things are going off the rails, that we never check out. I mean, it's a consistent process of checking in and seeing how we're doing and paying attention to really evaluating the progress of our mission. And that final thing, that sixth thing, that thing that makes the magic, encourage. To encourage, to be the champion, to be the cheerleader, to be the person always motivating, inspiring, uplifting people, to never just have, a lot of leaders, they get their pet projects and they get excited about it and they disappear. No, man, you need to encourage on a continual basis. You need to light people up. You need to have it in your heart and in your soul, that desire to want to lift people up, to lift them up and to lift them off their butts, to get them excited about things, If you can't motivate them with your passion and your example, then what are we doing? You have to encourage people when this gets hard. When you're working towards a mission, it gets hard. Longer term, the more people involved, the bigger the organization, the bigger the vision, the bigger the dream, the longer the duration to accomplish it, the more struggle, the more challenge, the more conflict, the more discord, the more disappointment, the more frustration, the more doubt, the more delay. All those things happen. Leaders have to deal with them. And the way they have to deal with it is always being that encouraging voice. When the chips are down, when it looks most bleak, you're still that beam of light. And when it gets dark, when it gets challenging, when there's conflict and turmoil and turbulent seas, you're solid. You're somebody that they know they can go to because you're always going to turn a negative into a positive. You're always going to help them see the alternative view, the next step. You're going to champion people. You're going to champion the mission and the cause. That's leadership. That's the 6 E's of leadership. Envision, enlist, embody, empower, evaluate, and encourage. And I'll say what overlays all this is a philosophy about what we're doing, that it's important to us, that there's a purpose, there's a mission to it, that we feel that deeply within us is so powerful. And we honor, we respect, and we love those we work with. Last thought, I never use the word, I try to, maybe I use it in this video a little bit to give us context, but I try never to use the word follower. People aren't following you, they're actively engaged. They are collaborators. When you get people to collaborate with you in all areas of these 6 E's, you're building leaders, you're building collaborators within the organization, within the team, with those who you are serving, a magic happens. It's not just you, the leader, it's a group of us. We are a peer set of leaders. We are the movers and shakers who are shaping and making this mission happen every single day. We love to work together, we have fun, people are standing up. They now are helping come up with vision. They now are championing and cheering on, bringing in, enlisting other people. They now are doing they're standing for something. They're living that value and the truth. They now are empowering other people and championing the cause. They're your eyes and your ears evaluating how the organization, how the mission is going. They now are encouraging it so it doesn't just ride on your shoulders. When we do that right, then we have this thing called leadership. Capability is you can do it every time. It is like a strength, if you will. It is something that you are highly capable at that thing. You are at another level of skill that it shows up every single time. But here's the truth. Capability is as much as a mindset as a competence. Let me give you an example. A lot of extremely smart people who can handle the problem don't handle the problem because they don't feel capable. It's like, yeah, I know it, but I don't do it. It's like a lot of people who achieve a lot of great things, how many of you know someone who's very competent, has great skills, but lacks the capability to execute? See, capability is something capability is self-trust to take the action. It's not just, do I know how to take the action? It's, I'm an action taker. I'm going to show up. I'm capable to handle this. I will do this. I trust in myself to handle this, to execute again and again and again and again and again. That's capability. And I really want you to develop that in your heart and in your soul by checking off the simplest of things each day. If you have a list of 3 to-do lists, if you wrote down your 3 top priorities for the day, do those first. Before you do your social media, before you reply to everyone's DMs, inbox, voice message, text. It's like, listen, I have so many people who they spend all day just checking their email to reply to everybody else. Now that's fine if that's your job. If that's customer service, do that. That's your job. But if you're an entrepreneur, as an example, or you have a whole list of other priorities and you're just checking into other people's agendas all day to meet all their obligations, and you keep missing your key priorities day after day after day after day, your brain doesn't feel like you're capable anymore. Even though you might be smart, you're competent, but your brain doesn't believe you're capable. You know what I mean? It's so important to understand this. I know if you're a parent, you understand this difference. Lots of kids can learn things and have skills and abilities. But if they don't put them and apply them, they don't sense that feeling of capability. And now your smart child, your child full of strength, talent, and ability, doesn't run on the field, doesn't take the action, doesn't finish the test, doesn't go for it. They don't feel capable. Why don't they feel capable? They don't have a pattern of action taking. You've got to develop the pattern of taking the action, the pattern of taking the action. Better yet, the pattern of taking the action to complete the key priorities. So all I want you to do as a daily simple habit, every morning, we do it in the high performance planner. I write down my key priorities for the day. Do those first. Get those out of the way. Make that happen. Maybe that's your morning. Maybe for me, I didn't feel capable in my career for a long time because I was replying to everybody. And then I did a simple thing. I said, you know what? No phone calls till 1 p.m. in the afternoon, my time. That leaves the morning to do the most important work. Because I do the most important work almost every morning of my life, I feel incredibly capable. Give me a task list. Give me that log is happening in the brain. Good job today. Good job today. Good job today. Good job today. That consistency, that congruence developed the capability. Now I feel capable and I am capable because I executed. Because I executed so many times, I developed a skill. Y'all follow? This is so important. Okay, this is so important, this capability piece. And the best part is when you get some capability, if you'll do what we talked about earlier, self-reflection, you'll start to go, look what I did there. If you do what I've always taught, which is you have to integrate the wins. Integrate the wins. When you do something, take a moment and go, I did that. You know, yesterday, here's how simple this is. Yesterday, after months of thinking, strategizing, and planning, I created this presentation and I sent the email. And it took me about 2 hours to pull this off. But I decided, you know what? This has been on my big dream list for a while. I'm going to make this pitch. It's a pitch. And so I said, okay, I'm going to get it done. And I finally sent it. And I'll tell you what, I walked out in the other room. Denise was like, what's up with you? I was just feeling so good. I said, I'm going to have a nice glass of wine with dinner tonight to celebrate. I did this. It was sending an email. But I was, somebody like, I'll have a glass of wine every time I send an email. Yes, sure. Thank you. But here's the thing. You got to celebrate the days that you are capable. When you do something good, go, good job. Pat yourself on the back a little bit. You have to integrate the win into your identity. If you took all of your strengths and all of your good days and all the wonderful things you have done in your life, and you really sat with them for a minute, you let them come in, you let them mentally stack where you just thought of that time you finished that big project, you launched that thing, you got the negotiation, you won the award, you handled that tough situation at the park with the kids well, you didn't get brought into their drama, you just took some time for yourself, and you let that integrate into the identity of who you were, you would feel an internal goodness. And see, when you integrate the good of what you're doing in life, you feel good. And I don't mean that like with hyperbole. I mean, you sense goodness again. When I sense that I'm good, because one, in my opinion, I'm lucky to be here. My clarity says, if you are alive, have reverence for life. You're a child of God. What a gift. You are so lucky. You're blessed to be here. So for me, I feel capable as a person. I feel I've been given gifts and strengths. Yeah, I had to develop a lot of them, just like you did. But because I trust that I was given those gifts or those strengths or this life, I feel capable. I feel like, you ever heard that thing? You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You ever heard about that? It's like, oh, yeah, I'm capable because I got someone watching over me. My dad's up there. My creator's up there. Grandma's up there. I feel good. I feel good. I feel capable because, you know what? I've done some good things. Okay. You let that come in. You let that goodness come in. Some of you haven't let your goodness shine for a while. Your vibrancy, your joy, that sense of soul or spirit or flow or femininity or masculinity, that part of you that's like this, because why hasn't it gone out like that? Because you haven't brought it in and stored it up. See, all you've done is deplete yourself for other people without those moments of self-reflection about the goodness that you're doing for other people, about the goodness you're doing in the world, about the virtues and the values that you stand for. You haven't let that stuff come in and form into the cement of the foundation of your character. And so you wonder why it doesn't emanate. Why doesn't the goodness come out? Because you haven't sat with the goodness that's already within. Why doesn't the goodness spread out because you haven't sat with the goodness that's already there. If you knew half of how good of a human you are, the choices that you've made to be on something like this, to raise your hand for personal development, to want to learn from other people, I celebrate that I raise my hand to learn. When I go to a seminar or I buy a course, I pat myself, I'm like, good job, you're learning, kid, you're not done yet. And I feel good about myself as a learner. I think learners tend to be more confident than people who think they know everything, because people who think they know everything are terrified that their worldview might break. Learners, like, I'll adapt, I'll figure it out, right? That adaptation mentality, that learning mentality gives me confidence. I believe in my ability to figure things out. We're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna talk about your confidence. And I'm really excited to break down a framework for you. And I hope in doing this, help you realize where some of those dark days come from, where you lose faith in yourself. Where those dark days come from when you have a lot to do, but you just don't feel like you can figure it out. Where that, when you get to go out in the world again, or when you're on a Zoom and you got to show yourself to the world and you feel awkward or weird or insecure, that you tap back into that authentic strength, that truth of who you are. And that as you go through your life, you feel confident that no matter what life is going to throw at you, you're going to learn, you're going to figure it out, you're going to develop your capabilities. And many of you are going through really hard times right now. Sometimes it's just hard to even be positive. You can be so consumed and so overwhelmed by the negativity of other things out there. You just go, oh my gosh, this is just hard to feel good, let alone confident. I'm going to break down a framework that I hope some of you are familiar with, but today we're going to talk about it with a different lens of how to overcome insecurities and what specific daily and monthly habits you might set up for yourself to feel more strong. So this is a piece of paper. It's a framework for confidence that I have on a board in my office. See, we need reminders. We are visual humans. We need to look at something to remind ourselves of something. And so you see, I have this, I'll share this with you in a minute, but I want to get the practice in your mind. The practice in your mind is you should have instructions to yourself on a wall somewhere. So you're like, if you walked into my office and say, Brendon, why do you have a framework for confidence on your wall over there? And I go, well, because sometimes I don't feel confident. And what do we do when we don't feel something? Well, when we don't feel something that we want to feel, we tend to feel not good because we're like, I don't feel this, so I feel bad about myself. Or we tend to distract ourselves. I don't like this feeling, so I don't know what to do, so let me just scroll through the internet. So to me, what I've done is I've got a board over here, and there's my framework for happiness. Do you have a framework for happiness on your wall yet? So that when you don't feel happy, you go, I don't feel happy. What's going on with me? And you can just go look at it and go, I've got my checklist for happiness right there. I forgot point number 3. No wonder I'm not happy. What I'm trying to suggest to you is maybe you give yourself a checklist, a framework, a set of instructions for the feelings that you really want to experience in life. And when you're not feeling it, instead of retreating into the comforts of distraction, you go back to your instructions. You know what makes you feel good. And it's time to write that down and look at it more consistently. Here we go. This is my confidence checklist. This is my framework for confidence. I'm going to break down each of these areas. And even if you've seen this maybe before with me, what I'd love to do is break down where these grow into trouble, where these are developed and strengthened, where these can be applied in your life financially, in your life, in your marriage or your relationship with your partner, with the kids. So I'm going to break down each of those things, each of those areas. I'll use a card here for you. We're going to start with that very first card here, clarity. Human beings are a goal-directed species. If we don't have clarity on what we want, if we don't have clarity on who we are, if we don't have clarity on what our intentions are in social relationships, it's It's unnerving to us. Well, if you ever felt lost in life, you know that feeling. It's coming from a lack, often of clarity. We'll talk about this. You just don't know who you are, what you're about, what you want anymore. And it's unsettling when you lack clarity. It's really unsettling. You're like, I don't know what I'm about anymore. And this is where midlife crises come in. Clarity is something it's like knowledge or a goal or an aim, but it's loosely held. What I mean by that is like, okay, that's important to me, but I can be flexible and adaptive as well. It's not this idea that you have total 100% complete certainty and you're total certain all the time. It's like that is a adolescent dream. No, there is no absolute certainty in anything in life, right? And so we have to go, oh, okay, I can have clear direction, or I can be strongly committed to this thing. But lots of people who are absolutely certain about something shifts months later. So here's my question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, in the last 60 days, how clear have you been about what you wanted in life? Did you start the day with some clarity about how you wanted to live that day, show up that day, treat other people that day, serve that day? So let's think about where sometimes you feel insecure. You're going to go to that party or that networking function. You feel insecure about yourself. Why? Because in your mind, the insecurity in that moment, in that situation of the networking situation or the party is coming from, I don't know who I am in here. I don't know these people and who I'm supposed to be with them. I don't know where to go or where to stand or who to talk to. And so it's unnerving. The insecurity is, I don't know what to do in this situation. Now, that type of confidence, or lack thereof, is something that psychologists call self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is about, I don't know what to do in this situation. That's where the insecurity comes from. Positive self-efficacy means, I believe that I know what to do in this situation. I can handle this. Even if I don't know how yet, I believe I can handle this. I have the competence to take this on, as an example. That's positive. But a lot of things in life you don't know how to deal with. You don't have self-efficacy because you don't know how to handle it yet. This is a new party. You don't know anybody in it. It's a new networking event. You've never met any of these people. How do you get more confidence in that? Well, one simple thing you can do is start with clarity. Like, okay, I'm going to go talk to people. What's something I'd love to share about myself with every new person I meet? Oh, okay. Lock that in. Okay, got it. What's one question I could ask every new person I meet? Okay, let me lock that in. Okay, just those two things have been found to dramatically increase people's sense of confidence in social situations. I know what I'm going to share about myself. I have clarity on it. I know what I'm going to ask them. I have clarity on it. Just those two simple things. The problem with clarity is it's a double-edged sword. A lot of people, their clarity is, I'm awful. I'm worthless. I'm no good. And they've stacked up all these experiences to strengthen that belief. And their clarity is, well, I'm a jerk. I don't deserve success. I won't have success. They've got clarity, but they got the wrong kind of clarity. See, confidence requires positive clarity, not negative self-defeating clarity. So clarity is a double-edged sword. If you believe the wrong thing about yourself, that's going to hurt you too. So what's the opposite of that? Well, I'm going to start viewing myself positively. How can we do that? Well, you know what? Maybe each day for the next 10 days, I'm going to write down a strength that I have. Write down 10 positive things about yourself every day for the next 10 days. Watch what happens for you. You start shifting your perception of yourself. Here, my little framework, we're going to go from clarity now to congruence. Congruence is living in alignment with what you know is the best of you. Living in alignment with the best of who you are. Living in alignment with your values. When you are not congruent, your brain logs that. And what it says in that log entry, not living your word, not living your truth, not doing what you said you would do. And too many of those negative withdrawals sucks away your confidence. But here's what you need. To be congruent, what do you need? Clarity. You say, okay, these are my values. These are my beliefs. This is what I think is important as a human being, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a leader. Congruence measures whether or not you're doing what you said you're going to do. And that's important. So here's the simplest fix. If you've been pulling too many withdrawals out of that bank account, it's time to put some back in. And so today might be the day you go, where have I been incongruent? Where do I say something and I don't do it? Where are you out of congruence? And can you do the simple acts? Sometimes when you're out of congruence, first you just apologize to yourself. You say, you know what? Gosh, Brendon, I haven't been honest with myself. Let's make a change. I think the fastest path back into congruence is an apology. An apology to yourself, an apology to other persons. It takes a lot of guts to say you are wrong. It takes a lot of guts to acknowledge you could do better. This one's fundamental. You get to decide today what to be congruent with. You get to decide who you are, and you get to decide to show up and live into that. Third big idea, competence. Right? Competence, it's a collection of knowledge, skill, talents, and abilities. The good news is you can increase this. So here's what I want you to do. Every day, I want you to have clarity on what skills you are working on in your life. That's how we're going to get competence. Competence for too many people comes 2 years too late. Why? Because they wait too long to start developing a skill. Every day, I'm very clear about what I'm trying to improve. Every day I'm learning something, but I'm learning not just casually or passively. I'm trying to get better at this thing. I want you all to have an ambition to have 1 or 2 or 3 skill sets that you're literally world-class in, that you're world-class in. Not because you need the ego that I am world-class. No. Because you need the challenge. You know why a lot of people lack confidence? They never engage challenge. You want more confidence? Engage in challenge more often. The more challenge you engage in and you incrementally improve in it, the more your brain goes, yep, there I did it again. And what happens when you don't have confidence, you don't engage in challenge. When you don't engage in challenge, you don't get more competence. So you don't get that competence, confidence loop we were talking about, the flywheel. You all follow? So for those of you, if you're like, but I just lack confidence, like challenge yourself more. But you're like, but I'm lacking confidence. I'm like, exactly. See, you're going, well, I'll get confidence, then I'll do the challenging things. I'm like, the other way around. You want more confidence, do challenging things more often. When you do challenging things more often, you learn. When you learn, confidence, connection. When you don't have a connection with yourself or others, confidence goes down. So you want to feel more confident in life? Reconnect with yourself and others. With yourself, that's your morning routine. Lock in that morning routine. The more you feel connected to self, the more confident you are. But you need the time to connect to yourself, away from the email, the social media, the obligations for the kids, the family, the husbands, the spouses, the team, everything else. You need that moment where you're like out and connecting with yourself, with your thoughts. You need time to think and to feel again. So turn off the TV, go for the walk. Put down the phone, do the meditation. Get away from the social thing 10 minutes earlier so you can sit in the car and just think before you go home. You need more space to be thinking and connecting with self. So build that in your life, self-connection. Second part, the most important part, we know environment dramatically shapes your confidence, the connection you have with the people around you. This means be around positive people, contribute around positive people, learn from positive people. It means create great relationships in your life. I want you all to improve this one. Simple action, simple daily, weekly, real life action. You must start sharing your real thoughts, feelings, desires, and goals with the people around you. You got to do it more often. Here's where you lack confidence in life. When you won't share your truth because you're worried what everyone else thinks. That's what high schoolers do. You don't do that anymore. You're too damn old. Now you share your truth with other people and realize most of them won't get it, won't understand why it's important, won't support you, won't care, or at least won't get in your way and say anything at all. But the less you speak your truth to other people, the more superficial your connections are with them. Number 5 is capability. Competence is the knowing, the knowledge, skill, talent, ability. Capability is you can do it every time. It is like a strength, if you will. It is something that is, you are highly capable at that thing. You are at another level of skill that it shows up every single time. But here's the truth. Capability is as much as a mindset as a competence. Let me give you an example. A lot of extremely smart people who can handle the problem don't handle the problem because they don't feel capable. It's like, yeah, I know it, but I don't do it. See, there's a difference between knowledge and execution, which is often the difference between competence and capability. See, competence is like the foundation and a stored value, but it's expressed through execution, capability. You want to develop capability? It means you get in the mix, you do the work, you show up, you try. Capability means I know I will execute. That's what, to me, confident capability is. I know I will execute. How do you do that? You have to be more consistent in your execution. You need to be way more consistent in your execution. We talked about decision earlier. Decision is great. Action is required. We've got to get you to execute more of those to-do lists. You want more success, you want more joy, you want more confidence, you got to execute more of the plans. Capability is self-trust to take the action. It's not just, do I know how to take the action? It's, I'm an action taker. I'm going to show up. I'm capable to handle this. I will do this. I trust in myself to handle this, to execute again and again and again and again and again. That's capability. And I really want you to develop that in your heart and in your soul by checking off the simplest of things each day. If you have a list of 3 to-do lists, if you wrote down your 3 top priorities for the day, do those first. Before you do your social media, before you reply to everyone's DMs, inbox, voice message, text. It's like, listen, I have so many people who they spend all day just checking their email to reply to everybody else. Now that's fine if that's your job. If that's customer service, do that. That's your job. But if you're an entrepreneur, as an example, or you have a whole list of other priorities and you're just checking into other people's agendas all day to meet all their obligations, and you keep missing your key priorities day after day after day after day, your brain doesn't feel like you're capable anymore. Even though you might be smart, you're competent, but your brain doesn't believe you're capable. Last big idea today, contribution. You want confidence? Give more. You want confidence? Make your difference. You want confidence? Do things that matter. Why? Because A, those things are celebrated in the world. Generous, giving people tend to have greater what? Connections with other people. Generous, giving, caring, hardworking people tend to have what? More clarity about who they are. They're more congruent. These things, they feel more capable. Like generosity, doing things that matter, giving strengthens the whole rest of the model. The whole model drives itself when you've got each of these pieces running, right? Each of these pieces touches one another. Contribution's a key. It really is. Sometimes when you feel so bad about yourself, you're not going to shake yourself out of that. But what can shake yourself out of that is service. Sometimes you got to get out of your own head. And to me, what has created a great confidence and reverence for life in my life has been, I've been volunteering most of my life. When you're a volunteer, when you show up for others, when you volunteer to help out, whether it's as simple as helping a friend move or going down to the local soup kitchen or volunteering for that nonprofit cause that you like, or running that fundraiser even though you don't know how, those contributions make a difference. Maybe your contribution is your art. Maybe your contribution is your time. Maybe your contribution is financial. Maybe your contribution is mentorship. Maybe your contribution is your content or your book or your work, whatever that is. If you can do the same thing where you can give generously to it, give to your work, be generous to that contribution, be in the moment when you're serving someone who is in need, you get a little more spirit inside. And when that spirit of goodness is inside, you can share it more too. This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.